Welcome to Geometry 4B Guided Practice. We're going to be looking at some sample questions in which we're trying to determine which triangle congruency postulate can we use to determine if two triangles are congruent. And we have four postulates that we reviewed in our notes, so you'll want to have your notes out. So for each question, we're going to try to determine the following. First, are there any sides or angles that we know by the reflexive property? In other words, they are congruent to themselves because they're kind of playing double duty in two different triangles. And then secondly, what pieces of information in a triangle do we know and in what order? And then thirdly, which triangle congruence theorem or postulate, if any, can we use to prove those two triangles congruent? So for instance, with number one, to start, we have these two triangles, and we know that this side right here is being shared by both triangles. So I'm going to mark this with a third set of tick marks. So that's my first step. Do I have anything that is congruent to itself? None of these other angles do I know for certain so far are congruent, but now I've determined what is shared in common. I can choose a side, and I want to kind of do this in order. Let's say I start for this triangle right here. Let's say I start in this corner. So this is going along the single tick mark, then it's going across the double tick mark, and then it's going across the triple tick mark. So in that order, I know a side followed by another side, followed by a third side, or side, side, side. Similarly, if I started with the angle between one tick mark and three tick marks, I've got to start in this triangle with the angle between one tick mark and three tick marks, and I know a side, a second side, and a third side, which is also side, side, side. And side, side, side is one of my four congruency postulates, so that's the one I'm going to mark right there. Let's look at another question just like this. We have two sides that are known to be congruent, but I want to see, is there anything I know is congruent to itself? And in this case, again, I have this side that's shared. And since my parts that are marked are two tick marks and three tick marks, I'm going to make this the one tick mark triangle. And then same thing, I want to make sure I'm going in order. This time, if I choose to start between the one side and the three side, that's starting here or at this vertex. So for this triangle, I've got side, side, side. So that's three sides that I know in the first triangle. And this triangle, again, starting with the angle between the one tick and the three tick, side, side, side. So I know three sides in that triangle are congruent to those three sides in the first triangle. So the answer to this one is side, side, side. Looking at our next question, these triangles aren't touching, so there's no way for me to know about some third piece of information from something being congruent with itself. So I need to go off of just what's listed. So if I go in order, I could choose to either start with the side or I could start with the angle. I'm going to start with the single angle here. So I know an angle here, that's an angle. I know an angle here. Oops, I wrote side. Okay, so an angle. I know another angle, angle, and then a side to follow, side, for this triangle. Then I want to follow in this triangle. If I started with the single tick mark angle, I need to start with the single tick mark angle here as well. So that's an angle, followed by an angle, followed by a side. So these do match in that they're both angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side. Is angle, angle, side one of our four congruency postulates? Yes. So angle, angle, side is how I know these triangles are congruent. Looking at number 4, these triangles touch in some way, so I want to see if some part is congruent to itself. And because these two angles are opposite each other, and they're formed by two straight lines, the intersection of two straight lines, they are congruent to each other. So now I'm going to go ahead and again start with a single tick mark angle. So that's an angle. I'm going to go to my next known part, which is another angle. And then I'm going to go to my third known part, which is a side. So this triangle, I know angle, angle, side. I'm going to try the same with this triangle. I know this angle, again, starting from my single angle, just to choose a common place to start. My next known piece of information is another angle. And then my third known piece of information in order is a side. So I have angle, angle, side for both, and angle, angle, side is one of my congruency theorems. So let's look at number 5. These are not touching, so there's no hidden piece of information. I have side, 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 and again, if I went single, double, triple, I need to go single, double, triple, side, side, side. Both of those are side by side, 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 side. So these are congruent by side, side, side postulate. Number 6, we know an angle, and there's an angle, and we know this angle and this angle, so that's two sets of angles, and we know these angles. So I'm going to start and going in order. Here we go. Let's go with a different color. So I'll start with my right angle. So I have angle, and then double angle, and then my triple angle. So that's angle, angle, angle. And this triangle, if I start with the right angle, so that's an angle, and then the double mark angle, second angle, and then the triple mark angle, third angle. So these two triangles share angle, 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 but angle, angle, angle does not prove congruency. That's not one of our 4 congruency postulates, so there's not enough information to prove these two triangles congruent. Number 7, we have, we'll start, again, they're not touching, so there's no hidden information. I'm going to start with my single side, and then I have an angle, an included angle in between, and then a second side for this triangle. And then if I go in the same order, I have this side, this included angle, and this side. So I have side, angle, side for both triangles, and side, angle, side does prove congruency. So 7 is congruence by side, angle, side. Okay. Number 8, we have 2 triangles that are touching, so there's going to be some hidden information here. Because they're have these 2 crossing lines, these angles here are congruent by vertical angles. So now in order, I have angle. We're going to start. We're going to start with this side 3 here. I have side, side, angle. All right. So if I started with the third one for the bottom, I need to start with the third one up here. Side, angle, side. These do not match, so they cannot prove these triangles congruent because the corresponding parts aren't congruent to each other. So this would be not enough information. We're going to go on to number 9. They're not touching, so there's no hidden information. We want to make sure we do these in order. So if this one, I'm going to start with my 2 mark side, then I have a side, an included angle, and then a second side. So this triangle is side, angle, side. With this triangle, I'll notice this double tick mark side is in between these 2. So if I were going from one end to the other, I'd end up with this side, side, angle. Because they're not the same order, they do not prove congruency. And this is not enough information. Then our final question, we have again two triangles pointing at each other. So these crossing lines form vertical congruent angles. Then in order, I have side, single tick mark, angle, single angle mark, side, double side. I can put a little mark there if I want to remember. And for this triangle, if I start at the single, I have side, angle, side. So side, angle, side matches for these two triangles. And side, angle, side is one of our congruency postulates that can potentially prove congruency. So side, angle, side is our answer. Hope you find that helpful, and you will have your choice of worksheet or IXL problems to solve.